Good day, great researchers all over the world. I remain your premier knowledge partner. Today, we'll be focusing on conceptual review. In the last class, we looked at empirical review. You can check through the mail I sent to you and trace the link and join the class. And make sure you submit your name so that when we'll be compiling um, the attendance for this month, you will get to this month we've been focusing on literature review, and hopefully before the end of this month we'll definitely cover everything to an extent what you should know as regards to using ChatGPT to do your literature review. So we have looked at how to use ChatGPT to do to review research paper, whether you are a student and you want to know the quality of your research paper, or maybe you are a lecturer and you want to know the quality and the level of compliance of research paper presented to you by your student in line with the approved template, school approved, or the one you developed yourself. So today we'll be looking at conceptual review. Possibly next week we'll be looking at theoretical review. Then hopefully we'll be ending it with how to actually do the research gap and research mapping. We'll finish everything within this week. However, those of us whose subscription is due, please do remit so that we can be able to meet up with the necessary cost we run here. If your subscription is due, don't wait for us to pull you out before you actually remit for the next month or the next session, depending on the category you belong to. That is your ChatGPT monthly subscription. Pro is 10,000, plus is 5,000, and our pro is only limited to 30 persons. Yeah, it's very, very expensive, and we want anybody who is there to actually be somebody who truly understand what ChatGPT is all about, or maybe you really want to enjoy ChatGPT Pro. ChatGPT Pro is like you trying to travel from Abuja to Lagos. You are considering by car, by foot, by plane. Which one is better? By plane, within 1 hour, less stress, more convenient. You're already there. Then plus is just like you trying to travel by your car. Then the free version you have in your phone is you trying to travel um foot. Now, when you try to look at the relevance of ChatGPT and the industry where ChatGPT play its role, you will see that ChatGPT Pro is actually what you need if you are looking at having intelligently structured and accurately structured drafts from ChatGPT. But if you are just looking at mere opinion or something like that, you fall back to your free version. Then Plus also gives a whole lot of advantage close to Pro. Plus, at our end, we bear monthly. We have different accounts. We bear monthly $20. That is approximately 30,000 naira monthly per account. Then Pro is over 300,000 naira monthly. One person, you have a whole lot of other things you are doing, and that is why we actually have this package. So we'll be looking at conceptual review today, and if not made your payment, please try and make your payment. In this conceptual review, we'll be looking at what a conceptual review is all about, the first part. And the second part, we will identify the types and scope of conceptual reviews. Then we will look at the roles of a conceptual review in research. Then we'll look at the step-by-step practical guidance to conduct a conceptual review. We'll also look at common mistakes to avoid when doing conceptual review. And the last one will be how to use ChatGPT to review and write your conceptual review. This particular section now will cover number 1 to 5. Then after this section, we'll move to another section where we'll now do the practical illustration. We try as much as possible to make all our discussions to be practical, but in some cases we have to look at the theoretical backing of the practical illustration. Although we will not be going in depth, we can just make it just brief by brief, but they are very, very important for you to be able to comprehend what we'll be doing in the practical section. So in this particular forum, we have a whole lot of senior academics, professors, senior lecturers, high profile individuals at different industries. So at any point in time, you get to have a contradicting perspective to anything I may be saying here. Just be sure that we welcome constructive criticism, be it positive side or the negative side. That will help us to keep on serving you better through our continuous growth, continuous development, and our ability to transform ourselves and unleash intelligence that will help you redefine possibilities in your area. So let's work as one team and follow me carefully so that you don't miss any point. So the first section now is definition of conceptual review. A conceptual review involves exploring, analyzing concepts, constructs, and ideas related to a research problem in order to develop a clear conceptual framework that guides the study. It focuses on defining, connecting, and refining ideas that shape the research. Now, to understand this clearly, whenever you are going into research, it means that you already have an idea. Now, idea flows to concepts, which we can regard as the variables. You can have the dependent variable, you can have the independent variable, control variable, mediating variable, moderating variable, different kinds of variable, all that come together to form the concepts of the study. And we'll now have from that idea to concept, we'll now have the construct. Constructs are now like measures, the proxies representing the various concepts, the various variables of your study. Now, when you are conducting a literature review, it means that you are trying to gain total understanding of the definition, the connection between them, and the key idea behind those concepts, constructs, ideas, variables, proxies, measures, whatever name you are giving to it. That is what conceptual review is all about. Now, let's move into the purpose of conceptual review. Why do we need to do conceptual review? Is it very important? To what extent? Why actually do we need it? Number one, it helps us clarify what being studied and why. Like I said, the concept, the constructs, the ideas, variables, measures, proxies, by a conceptual review will help you clarify what they are and why you actually have them in that study. It's like you trying to study the effect of food on the growth of a child. You are now bringing beans, yam, and some other things as the concepts that make up your study. You should be able to know why you are bringing beans, why are you bringing rice into that study. Very, very important, and you will know why if you don't actually clarify them properly. Then number two is to define the main variables or constructs. Define, giving it a definition. What are the definitions we already have from other authors? What is the definition you are giving it for your own study? Then we also go into conceptual review to establish the relationship between this concept construct. Very, very important. Then it also helps you to build the foundation of data collection and analysis. Very, very important. If you don't understand what the concept construct, what the variables are, giving them a clear definition, the clear meaning, you may not actually know what data to collect, what data not to collect. For instance, your study is focused on profitability of an organization. You have to define profitability so that you will know, are you collecting net profit or you are collecting gross profit? What kind of profit are you collecting? Without conceptual review, where you define the variables, you may not know the right thing to do as at that point in time. So these are the key 5 things, 4 things, and many other which you can see in the various books out there that you really need to know when you are doing conceptual review as regards to the purpose. Then We are now under the types of conceptual review. It is very, very important you know the various types of conceptual review, and that is because in my desk I have a whole lot of papers from different publishers, different lecturers, and one major issue I always see is that a particular researcher tries to actually limit his knowledge of what research is all about to his own perspective. Now, when you are reviewing somebody else's paper, be it from a student or a lecturer who is trying to publish, don't first of all see that paper from your own perspective. Try to see that paper from the perspective of that person. And the essence is because there is nothing like globally adopted structure of a research. Every researcher tries to actually adopt a particular structure, a particular perspective to justify what he or she is doing as at that point in time. So it is very, very important you see that study from that person's perspective. Try to see the argument the person is establishing before you start bringing in your own perspective to actually question that person's perspective. So knowing the conceptual review now will actually help you to know, knowing the types of conceptual review will actually help you to know when somebody is actually doing his own conceptual review in line with a particular type of conceptual review. So if your own knowledge is limited to a particular type, you may start judging that person's effort from not just judging, condemning what that person did and from the angle of another type of perspective, and that is because your own scope of understanding of conceptual review is already limited to one particular type. So when we talk about the types of conceptual review, we'll talk about the standalone conceptual review, which is a review that focuses on the concepts, theories, or definitions, often done when there is no enough empirical research or when the goal is to clarify ideas. This particular kind of conceptual review is just a standalone on its own. You are not trying to bring it under different variables, different constructs, or different heading that will lead to establishing something like a relationship. For instance, your study is a position paper. You can have a standalone conceptual review. We now have integrated conceptual review where it's now formed as part of the entire literature review, through which you now develop the conceptual, theoretical, empirical, and other things like that. This is commonly seen in maybe thesis and other thesis like papers. A conceptual explanation included as part of the broader literature review, common in undergraduate and postgraduate projects. Then we now have the third one, which is the conceptual framework development, a review done to build a framework model that guides the study, usually ends with a diagram showing how concepts are linked together. That is where you now start seeing the diagram, maybe with box, you now see arrow showing how they are all connected, establishing the relationship. When we get to the practical section using ChatGPT, you will get to see how we do those things. And the comparative conceptual review, a review that compares two or more theories or concepts to choose the most relevant one for the study. You are bringing different concepts and trying to compare them, which one is better for this study. For instance, your study is based on performance of an organization. You are trying to bring in an indicator like employee satisfaction is also talking about the performance of organization. Employee satisfaction is also talking about the performance of the organization. The profitability or as at that point in time is also talking about the performance of the organization. But you actually do not know which one to limit your study. You are now doing comparative, at the end you choose the one that is most suitable for your study. Then we now have the historical conceptual review, and that traces how a concept has changed over time. Example, showing how the idea of literacy evolved from reading writing skills to include digital literacy. Then we now have the number 6, which is critical conceptual review, which goes beyond describing concepts, it critically evaluates them. Example, questioning whether emotional intelligence is valid concept or just a buzzword. Then the number 7 is the narrative conceptual review, which is written in a descriptive storytelling style that explains a concept without strict systematic rules, easier for beginners. This is just you picking up maybe a profit and trying to explain, give it a description, what it looks like, what it is all about. Now, if you are a lecturer or wherever you belong to and you are reviewing a work presented to you by another person, try to know the perspective the person is handling the conceptual review from. That will help you to actually know whether the person has done something right or has done something wrong, except in a situation where the school or the publisher has a defined type of conceptual review they are expecting. As at that point in time, you will be reviewing and marking against that particular type of conceptual review in line with what the person presented to you. So there are different types. They may not actually be limited to what we have here. There could be as many other ones as possible. But what matters is knowing exactly what you are doing part time so that you don't mix things up. Then the next section we are to look at here is the scope of conceptual review. Conceptual review has a scope. It is not just that because it is conceptual review, you just write anything you see. So many persons confuse research writing and book writing. They handle research writing the way they handle book writing. No, research is to a very large extent logical and systematic. And when we talk about the scope, it should flow from the research problem down to the objectives, frame questions and hypotheses, and the number of concepts and constructs in that study. Don't be studying about Ebonyi State and your conceptual review is talking about Lagos. The various variables, the various measures, proxies, construct, and whatever name you are giving to it, this should form the, and including the problem, this should actually form the scope of your conceptual review. Anything outside there, you are writing off point. What to include in conceptual review. What are you expected to include in conceptual review? Or do you just include anything and anyhow it comes to your mind? No, in conceptual review, focus on the definitions from various scholars. Okeke and Oka for 2024, Emmanuel and Emanuela 2025, Angel and Angela 2023, Oyedokun and Oyedepo 2020. Are their definitions in line with what you are talking about? Maybe profit, maybe you are trying to define rice. What are the definitions from different scholars? First thing to include. The second thing you must include is the classification of ambiguous terms. For instance, when you are defining or when you are reviewing concept of performance, we want to know which aspect of performance are you focusing on. Are you focusing on profitability? And even when it comes to profitability, which particular type of profit? Are you focusing on employee satisfaction? Are you focusing on operational efficiency of the organization? Are you focusing on employee satisfaction or employee performance? What aspect of performance are you focusing on? If you are just giving us a definition of performance without you classifying the ambiguous term, making them straight, and you may be getting your readers confused. Then the third thing you must include is the classification of concepts. Make sure that your concepts are properly grouped. For instance, you are studying performance of an organization. In employee satisfaction, there are various constructs that can come under it. Under the operational efficiency, there are various constructs that can come under it. Now, if you now pick up a construct that should be under employee satisfaction and place it under operational efficiency and still continue, you will see, there is no classification. Make sure you classify. And the next thing is the examination of relationships between concept. Ensure you try to establish relationships. Maybe you are looking at the effect of artificial intelligence on research quality of students in Africa. Make sure you, or when you come up with the various constructs for artificial intelligence, ensure you establish a relationship with the research quality. Don't just be writing and writing. No. Four things: definitions, classifications, clarifications, classifications, and examination of relationship. What are you expected to exclude from conceptual review? You are not expected to do in-depth empirical analysis. You are not expected to go into primary data collection. You are not expected to do statistical testing of theories or the concepts. You are not expected to do theoretical analysis, trying to see who developed the theory, what are the rationales, what are the criticisms, positive, negative, then how the theory. No, no, no. But you can pick up a theoretical concept if that theoretical concept fall under the variables or fall under the construct or concepts of the study. Pick it up, discuss around the definition, the classification, clarification, and examination of the relationships. Very, very important. We move into the practical steps to do a conceptual review. What are the practical steps? Number one, you have to identify the research problems or questions. If you have not enrolled for our AI practical training for researchers, please do that. It is just 10,000 naira and you have access to that learning material for 3 months. In there, you will get to understand how you will use artificial intelligence and the various prompts you are to use from the beginning of your work to the end of your work, being the ideation to the referencing and other aspect of your research. And enroll for that training. It is very, very important. So the first step in conceptual review is to identify the research problem or the question. Then the second thing is to list the key concepts. And the next is to define, clarify concepts. The next thing is to group and categorize concepts. The next thing is to analyze relationship between the concepts. The next thing is to develop a conceptual framework. This is where you use diagram. Then the next thing is to explain and justify the framework. The next thing is to write the conceptual review section. These are the various steps you have to follow. Doesn't mean that these are not the way they are to appear in the paper. This is just the mental picture you must have when you are approaching conceptual review, so that you will not have to weigh what is here, what is not in your paper. If it is not there, something is missing. Go and pick it and fix it. Number one, identify the research problem in your mental or maybe in your working sheet. What is the problem you are working on? Does not mean that that problem will appear in the conceptual review. No, I'm saying the various steps you have to pass through to be able to write a quality conceptual review for your study, in your working paper or in your head. What are the problems or the questions or the objectives or the hypothesis you are working on? Then the number two, what are the various concepts? Then the number three, what are the clarifications of this concept? For instance, profit. Which profit am I working on? Net profit, gross profit, or return on asset, or whatever. Which one am I actually working on? And make sure that you group them. For instance, you are working on a study relating to profitability and maybe performance. Performance is profitability is a concept under profitability is a construct under performance. Now, under performance, we still have other things like employee satisfaction, client satisfaction before the profit. Now, when you come to the profit, make sure you group them. What are the various profits you are looking at? Then when you get to employee satisfaction, you are looking at their salary, you are looking at their health benefits and so many other benefits they are getting. When you are looking at customers, you are looking at the time it takes to get them satisfied, to provide them the value they need and the quality of the product they are getting, and so many other things like that. Make sure you group them one after the other. Don't say because I'm generally writing on performance, then you are mixing them up, bringing net profit to discuss after discussing a particular concept of salary. Maybe you discuss salary first, you now discuss profit. The next one you are now discussing maybe the time it. No, now group them and make sure that your work looks fine. Group and categorize. Then the next thing, make sure you establish relationships. The next thing, make sure you develop the conceptual framework where you use arrow the boxes to show the relationships. Then explain and justify the framework. Then write the conceptual review section and you are done. Now let's also look at the structure. Everything I'm saying to an extent, they are all related, but just pay attention. And as I said earlier, follow me carefully. The next thing is the structure of conceptual review. In your conceptual review, you need to have the introduction. What is the introduction? Then the next thing is review of the concept, being the definition, comparisons, critics. Then the next thing is the synthesis and the connection, being the relationship. Then the next thing is the diagram and explanation. Next thing, summary, conclusion. That is the structure of a particular conceptual review section or the entire review section. And the last one we'll be discussing here is the common mistakes to avoid. Listen and follow me carefully here. When you are doing your conceptual review, make sure you avoid using concepts without clear definitions. Make sure you avoid mixing up conceptual and theoretical frameworks. Make sure you avoid listing concepts without analysis or connection. Make sure you avoid skipping the visual framework. Make sure you avoid using non-scholarly sources, and make sure you avoid being too vague or broad. With all this I have discussed here, I want to believe that you can now follow me carefully when I will be doing the practical illustration under the using the chat GPT in our next section. This first section has actually exposed you to all you need to know, or to some things you need to know as regards to conceptual review. Thank you so much for being a member of Verizon Global. See you in the next class.